Welcome back to Askewed Reviews, and we are continuing the Friday the 13th series with the 1984 film Friday the 13th, The Final Chapter. Here is your trivia question for today. What did Tommy Jarvis do to attempt to confuse Jason and get him to stop killing? The answer will be at the end of this video. This film starts at the very next evening after the events of the last movie. The supposed dead body of Jason Voorhees is brought into the hospital, but of course he's not actually dead, and he ends up taking out some of the staff and then escaping from the hospital. We then meet two groups of people who, of course, end up having houses that are on Crystal Lake. The first group is the Jarvis family, and they actually live there most of the time. The other group is a bunch of 20 something year olds who are here to party. We then even meet a few other characters, including Rob, who's out camping and seems to have some sort of secret, and of course a pair of twins that seem to be locals as well. Now, of course, Jason does end up finding both groups of people, probably due to the premarital sex and the drugs, which he seems to be pulled in as if it was a homing beacon. And it seems that old habits die hard, unlike these kids, as Jason begins slaughtering each and every one of them. And like previous Friday the 13th movies, these 20 something year olds just can't seem to stop Jason. But perhaps now that they have a child with them, perhaps that can help. Will this actually be the final chapter of Jason Voorhees? Steve Miner, who was the director on the past two films, did not come back for this one, so instead they brought in Joseph Zito. Chronologically, parts 2, 3, and the final chapter all take place over a 5-day span in 1984. What's especially interesting about this is the movie actually released in 1984 as well. So, this is the first Friday the 13th movie where its release and the actual depiction of it take place in the same year. Now, when they first talked about doing a fourth movie, slasher films had started to decline, so the idea was to do a prequel movie where Pamela Voorhees is in a custody battle with her ex husband over Jason. This was deemed too dark and not what the producers actually wanted out of a Friday the 13th movie, so of course they went back to the original formula. Once they decided on actually going back to the series, they reached out to Dana Kimmel to see if she'd be willing to reprise her role of Chris, but she ended up declining. When they created the character of Tommy Jarvis, they actually were not going to have him be a mask maker, he was going to be an inventor. They ended up changing that, but when you see the scene of him tinkering with the car, that's because they were still planning on doing that idea when they made that scene. Tom Savini was brought back to do the makeup and special effects for this movie as he did for the first Friday the 13th, and he wanted to be here for this one since the plan was to actually end the series with this. He wanted to be the one to end Jason since he technically created him. Richard Brooker did not come back to reprise the role of Jason. They instead brought in stuntman Ted White. White, by the way, did not like at all director Joseph Zito, mainly due to the fact that there was a low budget for this film, which required a lot of the actors and actresses to do their own stunts, so Zito put the actors through a lot of dangerous situations, where White had made suggestions of how to make those scenes better, but Zito didn't listen, so it caused a big enough argument that White almost left the film and actually asked to be uncredited as Jason. White also apparently did not like Corey Feldman either. He actually called him the meanest goddamn little kid. Apparently, the big reason for this is Feldman was usually a bit frustrated on set due to how Zito was treating him and the other actors. Now, White was not fully aware of why Feldman was acting like that, so at one point he decided to try and get some revenge on the kid. What he did is there's a sequence where he's supposed to pull Feldman through a window. Now, he waited a bit longer than he was supposed to, so Feldman thought that they were just going to stop and restart the scene. Instead, White jumped out at that point, pulled him through the window, so the terrorized look on Feldman's face was actually real. By the way, the scene where Corey Feldman keeps hitting Jason over and over again with the machete, it was actually two sandbags that he was hitting. But apparently, Feldman has said later that he was pretending that it was Joseph Zito, as he was so frustrated with how the director was treating him. This was another film in the series that was also released on an actual Friday the 13th. And just like the last movie, this one was also filmed in California. The Jarvis house from this film would actually be used again in another movie quite a few years later, in the movie Ed Gein from 2000. This is the first Friday the 13th where we actually find out that Mrs. Voorhees' first name is Pamela due to her gravestone. The Jarvis family hug was actually based off of a hug that one of the screenwriters actually would do with their own family. The character of Rob is there to get revenge for his sister Sandra. Sandra is actually a character that showed up in Friday the 13th Part 2. The workout video that you see at the hospital is called Aerobicize, and it was an actual movie from 1982. It also had Darcy DeMoss in it. DeMoss, by the way, would try out for the fifth Friday the 13th movie, and due to issues with the director, didn't stay with that one, but would try again for Jason Lives and actually get a role in that one. Camilla Moore actually auditioned for the role of Samantha, but when they found out that she had a twin sister, they offered both of the sisters the characters of Tina and Terry. The strange looking dance that Jimmy actually performs is based on how the actual actor Crispin Glover would dance at clubs. Also, the music that they're hearing while recording that is AC/DC's Back in Black, but due to not wanting to get involved with the lawsuit, the one that we hear from the film is Lion's Love is a Lie. So the body count for this film is 14. You have Axel, whose throat is slit with a hacksaw and then his head is twisted around. You have Nurse Morgan, who gets gutted with a scalpel. You have the hitchhiker, who gets stabbed through the throat with what appears to be a hunting knife. You have Samantha, who's impaled through the chest with a machete while she's floating on a raft. There's Paul, who gets harpooned in the crotch by a harpoon gun and lifted into the air. Terry, who's impaled through the back with a spear. Mrs. Jarvis, who you don't see what happens to her at first, and you really don't know, but apparently there's a cut scene that shows her body being found in the bathtub. There's Jimmy, who gets a corkscrew to the hand and a cleaver to the face. Tina, who gets thrown out a window and crashes to the roof of a car. Ted, who's stabbed in the head with a kitchen knife. Doug, whose head is crushed against a shower wall. Sarah gets an axe to the chest. Rob is beaten to death with what I assume is a lead pipe because that's what it looks like was impaled in his head when they see his body later. And then, of course, there's Jason, who gets a machete to the head from Tommy Jarvis, and Tommy keeps hacking away at him. Now, technically, we also don't really know the fate of Gordon the dog, as the last time we saw him, he jumped through a window to get away from Jason. So he could be alive or dead. Also, the reason why he's called Gordon is Joseph Zito had a friend who had a dog named Gordon that unfortunately had recently passed. So when it comes to the film, Friday the 13th, the final chapter, this is another one that's one of my favorites in the series. So I thought this one actually had a pretty good storyline. I liked the characters, I liked the scenes, so I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. Now, as for the trivia question from the beginning of this episode, what did Tommy Jarvis do to attempt to confuse Jason and get him to stop killing? So, due to a news article and having some idea of what Jason looked like when he was a kid, he decides to put makeup on his face and shave off most of his hair so that he looks like Jason and tries to convince him that he's his inner child telling him to stop. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Askewed Reviews, and if there's a movie you'd like to see get a review, just mention it in the comments.